This is a video for Southbound Soiree, or Southbound Suarez, or SAUREZ, or however you want to pronounce it. I'm sure there's a bunch of people watching out there like, it's Soiree, you idiot, whatever. However you want to pronounce it. I do know they misspelled it on the record on purpose, which is interesting. It's funny. So, in any case, I'm tired. I don't mean to be surly, but I'm not feeling all that good. Anyway, Southbound Suarez, or Soiree. Seriously, what we do, again, it's another, I just did Night Flight, and that's one of the tunes we're Bonham, straight up, 16ths on the hi-hat. Southbound Suarez is the same thing. Now, his basic beat is simpler than that, which I think he plays most of the time in the song, which is... As the song goes on, he starts doing busier stuff. Okay, and that stuff, you just listen to the tune and you'll hear it. A lot of people are like, well, they really want to play the song exactly like it is on the recording. You can do that. I mean, just go ahead and listen to it. And there's a lot of things, and I don't know how to use it, I'm embarrassed to say, but, like stuff like Audacity and a lot of these things, you really can isolate the frequencies and really bring up the drums and the bass drum and see exactly where he's playing. I just don't know how to do it. I'm busy. I don't have the time to do it, or at least at this point. So you can do that too. But again, from where I'm sitting, the basic beat is... That's the basic beat, and I think if you listen to the song, you'll hear, by and large, most of the song he is just playing it that simple. But then he does some of the classic little Bonham-y, things. That right foot he has, where he just beefs it up, but then he goes in a little... It's pretty all straightforward, and I think, you don't hear a lot of, all over the place. If you go on YouTube, you can hear like a lot of tons of bands now, because of Rock Garage Band or Rock Band or whatever the hell it is. You hear a lot of recordings where it's drums only, bass only, guitar only, which I think is majestic. When I first saw that stuff on YouTube or heard it, I think it's beautiful. You can go and listen to just the drums or just the bass or just the vocal. Like, it's funny. By the way, it's fun hearing a lot of Van Halen vocal only. Listen to David Lee Roth stuff. It's just pretty funny to hear him sing by himself. Anyway, but there's not a whole lot of it with Zeppelin. I mean, you have the stuff that came out from, Polar Studios, or from when they were doing it through the outdoor, which wasn't frequency reduced. Like, to me, it sounds like it is just the drums. But also, it does sound like the drums with the treatments. In other words, the treatments that went into the mix. In other words, like somebody sat behind the console, pulled everything else down, and there were the drums, and put it on like a stereo tape. Meaning that it's just not the naked drums without any delays and reverbs and compression and stuff. I mean, it's treated as they are on the record, in my opinion. But I wish there was a lot more of that stuff with Zeppelin, and I think a lot of people like you, a lot of you folks, or maybe me if I get my head out of my ass, will do that. Because a lot of Bonham stuff is actually a lot easier to learn when you hear it by itself. Oftentimes, Zeppelin were geniuses at, like, the guitar and the vocals stuff would sort of dance around the rhythm, the drums a little. So sometimes the stuff in the drum sounds a little more complicated than it is. So a lot of stuff is a lot easier, I think, to learn, especially Bonham stuff, if you hear it just by itself. So anyway, back to Southbound Soiree, or again, I think it's pretty simple. Now, in a Bonham way, I mean, there's the sound of the drums they got, his big 20 and 26-inch bass drum, and the compression they used on the drums, and the way they mic'd it, and plus the way he played. Bonham played slightly behind the beat always. I'm telling you, if you listen to a lot of that Zeppelin stuff, if you can get it without all the music, Bonham dragged very slightly. He did. But those guys, John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page played to him perfectly. Now, he didn't drag like a bad drummer would drag, but he very British, sort of like, kind of like you can almost imagine him saying, "Listen, I play the fucking drums. I play like this, and you guys play along to me." That kind of thing you'd think you might read in a book somewhere. Somebody might write, because that's kind of what it is. And you can really hear that again in the places where, in that Polar Studios outtakey stuff, you can really hear when they do Carousel Alhambra. I mean, Bonham's dragging all over the place, but it sounds good. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, I prefer. I'm making my own record now, which I expect many of you to buy from me when I'm done. But when you play stuff to a click, and even if you quantize it, sometimes it still sounds rushed and hurried. It's weird. Even when stuff is totally quantized in perfect time, it doesn't sound good. There's a reason why symphonies don't record and then dump everything into Pro Tools and use, Beat Detective or Russian Dragon or any of this other shit that they use or whatever the programs are now, and quantize everything, because it would sound like shit. I mean, it just would, you know what I mean? Music is meant to breathe. Now, there's a lot of music out today, a lot of pop and, of course, rap and stuff, which is quantized, and because of the nature of that art or what it is, it sounds good, or at least people are used to hearing it that way. They've never heard it any other way. So there's a lot of pop tunes I like. I'm a total Katy Perry sucker. I love that stuff. But back to, rock and roll and in general music, it's meant to breathe a little bit. It's meant to, the musicians are meant to play with each other. If you went back, everything's in time with itself. So, in any case, that's the bulk of Southbound Soiree that I can think of. And I think toward the end, he has a busier thing right before the end. There is a point later in the song where the music kind of drops out before the final end, where I think he does which is kind of cool, clap. Actually, I can't remember if he does any. He might do a couple jump-ins that are on the ahead of the one. Anyway, it's all right there. Just listen to it a bunch of times. With Led Zeppelin stuff, if you really sit and just listen to it, even before, we hopefully get to the point we can pull the music out, just really listen just to the drums when they're doing it and just count along with it. It's easier to get than you think it is. By the way, these are my new drums. Well, they're not new. I've had them for 2 years. These are my Sonar 3007 Maple red sparkle lacquer drums, which rock. And this is a Pearl. This comes with the Vision series snare drum. It's steel. I'm normally not much of a steel guy, but every so often I kind of get just sick of playing the same stuff all the time. I got the Amber sitting over there, so I set these Sonars up that I've had forever. So 22, 13, 16. They're maple. I actually personally like the sound of birch. I don't know why. I'm not going to get into darker studio EQing, naturally EQ'd stuff. But just from my experience, for whatever reason, I do slightly prefer the sound. At least of the Sonars. I have a set of, you've seen in the videos, wherever they are. Sonar Birch 2005. They're really nice, thick birch, so they sound awesome because you get maybe a little more attack or whatever. I don't know. But these are great drums, so that's why I'm not sitting behind the Vista lights, just because to tell you the truth, I just got sick of playing them. So anyway, just and I know some people had asked about what cymbals I have here. This is a 505 medium bottom paired with a Paiste Alpha band cymbal 15, which I just a musical round was selling a bunch of Paiste stuff cheap, so I bought 2 or 3 pairs of these for $200. So I got 6 of these cymbals in case one ever cracks, which I know it won't. But I was playing with the Zeppelin band, and I was afraid it might. So anyway, so they're really heavy, but I'm just used to leaving them on here. This is a Paiste Sound Formula, a hand cymbal. I love, even with Zildjian, I love the the French symphonic cymbals. I love because generally the profiles of the cymbals are lower. They're not, especially with Zildjian. I mean, Paiste really doesn't have a bunch of profile to their cymbals. But Zildjians, at least up until a few years ago, were always very bowl shaped, and that always drove me crazy because you get more of which drove me crazy. And if you look at the difference between the new Ks to the regular Zildjians, you'll see most of the difference is, they say the hammering, but also really it's just the how high the cymbal is. You look at the Ks, they're generally flatter, as are the old days from the 50s into the early mid-60s, even into the 70s kind of. Anyway, so this is a Paistia B12 hand cymbal. I think it sounds great. I picked it up for $60 on eBay. And then this is a 505 medium 18. These are 15s, by the way. That's an 18. This is an 18 as well. I just have it on here. So that's what I'm playing now on here. At some point, somebody asked if I'd give like a tour of all the drums and cymbals I have, which I will. I mean, if anyone wants to check it out, that's fine. But anyway, so that's Southbound Soiree. Forgive me for going off the beaten path. I hope everyone has a good weekend. It's Saturday, and there's only a few more weeks left of summer, so live it up.